tour guide, who also happened to be a former political prisoner, was a large man with a gruff voice. As he led his guests towards a cell where Nelson Mandela was forced to live for so many long and harsh years, he answered each of the questions they asked. "Did you know Nelson Mandela?" queried the spellbinder thoughtfully. "Yes, I served with him for 8 years on Robben Island." "What was he like as a person?" asked the artist, appearing overwhelmed by the emotions that he was feeling as he walked down the main corridor of the jail that had been home to so many atrocities during the apartheid era. "Oh," said the guide gently, with a gracious and even wise smile across his face, "that man was a humble servant." "And what was Nelson Mandela like as a leader?" expressed the entrepreneur. "Tremendous, dignified, inspirational by the way he handled himself and all he went through. Every time he met one of his fellow leaders, often it was here in this courtyard," commented the guide as he stepped into the area where the political prisoners would walk, talk, plan, and stand. He would ask, "Are you learning?" He'd also often say, "Each one, teach one." In this way, mentoring his associates on the importance of sharing their daily learning to increase the leadership capability of those around him. Mr. Mandela understood that education is the ultimate highway into freedom. That man was treated so poorly. All those hours of back-breaking work in the limestone quarry, all the degradation and humiliation. A few years after he came here, he was ordered to dig a grave in the prison yard and then to lie in it, the tour guide added. "He must have thought that was the end," reflected the billionaire softly. "Probably," replied the guide. Instead, the guards unzipped their pants and urinated over him. The spellbinder, the billionaire, and the entrepreneur, and the artist all looked down. "We all have our own Robben Islands that can keep us imprisoned, I guess," the billionaire mused. "But as we go through life, we endure our own trials and injustices. Nothing as severe as what went on here, of course. I read that Nelson Mandela said his greatest regret was not being allowed out of this prison to attend the funeral of his eldest son after he was killed in a car accident," expressed the billionaire. He looked up to the sky. "I guess we all have our regrets. And no one gets out without their own ordeals and tragedies." The tour guide pointed to the fourth window to the right of the entrance of the courtyard. "There," he stated, "that's Nelson Mandela's cell. Let's go in." The cell was incredibly small, no bed, a small wooden table that a prisoner would need to kneel at to write in his journal as there was no chair, a concrete floor, and a brown wooden blanket with green and red flecks in it. For the first year of his imprisonment, Nelson Mandela wasn't even permitted to wear long pants, though it was freezing over the South African winter. He was given only a thin shirt and flimsy shorts. When he showered, the guards stood and watched this elderly man standing naked, an attempt to humiliate and break him. When it was time to eat, he was given food unfit for an animal. When letters would arrive from his wife and children, often they wouldn't be delivered. Or if they were, they would be significantly censored. All this was carefully done to crush Mr. Mandela's spirit, the guide explained. "It seems to me that all he endured in this shoebox of a jail cell on this desolate island, encircled by a raging ocean, developed him, strengthened him, and opened him. The prison became his crucible. The mistreatment became his salvation, leading him into his natural power, highest humanity, and fullest state of unstained heroism. In a world of selfishness, apathy, and people disconnected from what it means to be human, he used what he was presented with to grow into an advanced soul on the planet. A man who would show the rest of us what leadership, fortitude, and love looked like. And in so doing, he became one of the greatest emblems of forgiveness and finest symbols of peace. And so, this transformational leader and history maker, who has left a legacy that will inspire many generations, took halting steps towards his long-awaited liberation. The tour guide took a long, weary breath. Then he carried on. Mr. Mandela was given a country on the cusp of a civil war. Yet, somehow, he managed to become a unifier instead of a destroyer. I still remember the words from the famous speech he gave during one of his trials. During my lifetime, I have dedicated myself to this struggle of the African people. I have fought against white domination and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons will live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal for which I hope to live for and to see realized. But if it needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die. Mr. Riley cleared his throat. He kept looking at the cement floor of the tiny cell. Mr. Mandela was a true hero, confirmed the guide. After his release, he invited the prosecutor who demanded the death penalty for him to dinner. Can you believe that? And he asked one of the jailers who watched over him here on Robben Island to attend his inauguration as the president of South Africa. Really? The entrepreneur asked quietly. Yes, that's a fact, responded the tour guide. He was a real leader, a man of genuine forgiveness. The spellbinder raised a finger to signal he wished to share another point. Nelson Mandela wrote, "As I walked out the door toward the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and my hatred behind, I'd still be in this prison." He also said that to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances freedom of others, the guide added, and that no one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. I read, he'd often get up around 5 a.m. and run on the spot for 45 minutes, then perform 200 sit-ups, and then do 100 fingertip push-ups. That's the reason I'm always doing my push-ups, the billionaire contributed, somewhat awkwardly. Said the tour guide before continuing. Mr. Mandela came into this cell as a hot-headed, angry, hostile, and militant young man. It was who he grew into here in this prison that made him the icon we now all revere. As Archbishop Desmond Tutu taught us, suffering can either embitter us or ennoble us. Thankfully, Madiba, which was his clan name, chose the latter. All the best men and women of the world have one thing in common: extreme suffering. And each of them evolved into their greatness because they chose to leverage their circumstances to heal, purify, and uplift themselves. Yes, no matter what struggles we face and what adversities we will endure, no matter what attacks, humiliation, and violence are visited upon us, we must persist, we must continue, we must stay strong, we must live our luminous nature and magnify our sovereign selves. Even if it feels the whole world is against us, this is truly what makes us human. Even if it seems the light will never transcend the darkness, keep making your walk to freedom. Model what's highest for the rest of us. Exemplify grace for the majority of us. Demonstrate actual love for the rest of us.